Hey there, welcome to my third vlog of Illustrating with Kris. I'm Kris, and as you may well notice that I've switched it up from Dutch to English. I hope I can do that properly. I got some international questions from teenagers and children who really wanted to join in but couldn't understand a thing about Dutch, which is totally understandable. So I'm trying to switch it up a little bit and now doing this whole class in English. I hope that I'll be able to explain everything clearly with the quite limited vocabulary I have. So if it be weird here and there, then I'm sorry in advance, but you have to bear with me. Also, I've been a little bit under the weather this week, so I'm a bit dizzy. My ears are quite blocked and painful. So I have trouble focusing and I'm a bit dizzy, so I'm gonna do a quick one because I think my eyes otherwise cannot keep on going. So again, excuse me for that. If the sound anywhere in the edit goes wrong, then I probably didn't hear it because I cannot hear anything apart from myself. So much apologies in advance, but I think you will at least enjoy this lesson anyway. So let's not waste any time and let's go talk about the theme for this week, and that is perspectives. Perspectives, I know it sounds a bit boring. It's a sort of a quick technical lesson, but it's quite handy to know. Also, last week we've talked about monsters, and I think it's cool for you guys if you're able to put your monsters in an environment, in a context, so that they don't float around in empty air, in empty space. So let's not waste any time on talking about this. Let's just start. All right, welcome at the third sketchbook session. We're talking about perspectives. And I think it's good to first start with thinking about what do you want to draw? Because we're first starting off with the size, the dimensions of your canvas. So, for example, if you want to have a focus point, if you want to sketch out a landscape, and it's a wide landscape, then choose a wide canvas, right? But if in that canvas or in that in the scene you want to draw is, for example, a mountain, and you want to enhance the mass of the mountain itself, then maybe you could better choose for a vertical canvas like this. And if you want to make a canvas where the focus point is on a centerpiece, then you can go for a square one, for example. So your choices about canvases and dimensions and perspectives are already starting with the first thing, and that's the canvas. So square, this is what we call portrait dimension, and this is called landscape dimension. So I'm gonna show you a couple of tips and tricks how to create depth and focus points in your environmental sketches. So, for example, first rule: everything you draw. Let's say we take this one, so we take that size. I hope this is big enough to see. Let me check on my iPad. Yeah, you can see this. Okay, good. Okay, so let's take this. The most important object in this canvas should be somewhere. I'll take this on the. I'm gonna draw two lines here and two lines like this, two verticals, two horizontals. The focus point of one of your subject, your most important subject, should be on this, or this point. That just really helps with flow and with focus and with perspective. As well as when you're drawing a landscape, do never, ever, well, you can, but please don't do it, draw the horizon in the exact middle of your canvas, because that just doesn't make sense. It can be, but it makes it boring and boring to look at. So what I'm gonna teach you is that the lower you are to the ground, the lower the horizon is. Because imagine if you're laying on your belly and you look forward into a grass field, you only see grass. You don't really see the horizon. So the horizon would be very low. If you're on top of a building, you can see very far, and then the horizon might even be like around here. So you have bird perspective and frog perspective. And then you have all kinds of things in between, but human perspective, maybe here. Human. So with these tips, at least for the start, I'm gonna show you how to create depth. So let's say you are looking at a landscape. Let's say a sea, the sea. So the sea. I'm not that tall, so the horizon would be around here, maybe here. Right. Again, not the middle. And maybe there's a little bit of the beach here in front. And there's a boulder. And I'm drawing this right in front of everything. And because the boulder is close to my point of view, it's quite big. Like this. So it goes over the line of the horizon, so the sea line. Because it's just closer to me. You can practice this with your hand, you know. You can see how it changes in size. So there's a boulder here. And I also want a piece of land all the way back. Like as if I'm watching, you know, if I'm standing on the beaches of Holland or the Netherlands and looking at England, maybe. That this is not how it looks, but sometimes you can, by the way. So I will make a little piece of land here, just very vaguely. And then maybe in the sea there are some more boulders. And I want that to be the focal point, so I'm going to place a boulder here. This boulder is obviously much bigger than this boulder. But because it's far away, it gets smaller, which is, I guess, I don't have to explain to you guys. Like this. And this is the sea going around this, like this. And then maybe in the back there's another boulder, which is behind this big one. It's also quite big, but again, it's far away, so you can't even see it. And I'm letting this one overlap. And maybe then I draw a lighthouse on the side of this boulder, like this. Right? Okay, this is a weird lighthouse, but you would never find a lighthouse like this on the side of the mountain, but doesn't matter. This is creativity. We can do whatever we want. So let's do it like this. And then, okay, so we have a little piece of land here. We have a boulder, another boulder, and we have this boulder. Okay, so how to make it look as if this boulder is close to us. Well, we're doing that by our values. I hope that is the correct English word. The closer it is towards you, the darker it is. So this one is quite dark. Also because maybe it's quite in front of the, it's very much in front. You can also make it a bit out of focus. It's also a good way to insinuate depth, to play with your focus. So I'm going to make this quite black, quite dark, dark gray. And then it comes forward. Now this is the sea. And the sea, the further it goes, the more it tends to sort of dissolve into the line of the horizon, right? So the farther you look, the less clear it is to see. So I'm going to just vaguely smudge this a little bit so that you do have this idea of something being here, but you're not really getting that. You know, it's all a bit of a vague thing, but you know it's there. Then again, I'm not really trying to define the horizon because it's out of focus, so you don't have to. Then this middle boulder is also blackish, grayish, but in a lighter value. So I'm going to try to draw this one a little bit lighter than the one in the front foreground. Sorry, not the front ground, but the foreground. Like this. And then this one in the back is again lighter. I'm gonna take my other paw pencil. And maybe it's that light that you can't even really see it anymore. It's more like a shape somewhere in the background, and you're like, whoa, is there even a boulder there? Am I really seeing it properly? Yes, you are. So I'm gonna make this one a little bit darker. And then the lighthouse like this. Right. So what I've just shown here is that by adding something in the foreground, which is this, foreground, middle ground, and background, you can see that I've created depth. The tools for the depth were the color, the values of the different objects, and the overlap. This one overlaps the sea level. This one overlaps the other boulder. And this one, actually the sea overlaps the land. And if you do this properly, and you take your time, and you gradient this, as well as the sky. I mean, the sky is also not entirely blue. The sky can be darker blue or darker gray on top, and lighter around the horizon. The same goes with the sea. The foreground, as I said, is darker than the rest, so you can also color this like this. And then you go, it looks like you're dragged into this illustration, right? So you work from dark to light, and then the lightest parts are in the background. What you can also do, if you're like, okay, I don't want to draw this specifically, I want to draw somewhere where my object is in the middle ground and it's in a forest. Okay, again, I'm gonna make the canvas. I'm choosing a landscape one. And I just told you guys about the points here, the focus points, but you can also say, okay, I want my focus point in the middle or sort of here. That's also possible. We can do that. Perspective wise, this is a 1 point perspective. So everything goes there. So maybe you're in a forest. you have this monster. Let's include the monsters here. Or a frog. I don't know, maybe something like this. Like this. A frog. Hello, Froggy. Mr. Froggy. You want to make an illustration where he is the focal point of everything. So he's in the middle. So I'm gonna draw the background around him. He's quite small, of course, so you're on the ground. Maybe there's grass in the foreground because you're watching him through the grass. The grass is quite close to you, so it's enormously big, right? It has to be dark, so we're going to do that later. Maybe there's also a leaf, because there might be a tree somewhere nearby. There's a leaf, maybe another leaf. And then he's in front of a boulder, or a rock in this case. And behind him is another rock. And there's a rock here. A little one here. And there are leaves here. Maybe a branch like this. So, what I'm doing now is creating a quick sketch. And I'm making this the focal point. So, what have I done? These boulders, the lines of the boulder end here, as well as this one. This line goes towards the middle. This line from the leaf goes towards the middle. These ones go to the middle, right? These ones go to the middle. What that does is that it focuses my or the viewer's attention towards the middle of this illustration, which you wanted. If you then enhance this situation by making this the focus point and blurring this a bit, so making this a bit out of focus, so you're doing the same trick, you're adding the value. This is a dark grass with a dark leaf behind it. This is all out of focus. It's all a little bit blurred, and that's fine. Why? Because it gives the suggestion of depth again. That doesn't mean that everything here has to be one big black object and you can't even see the differences. That's not the case. You can add little shimmery lights or little reflections. You can add a little bit of shadow if you want. I mean, it doesn't have to be a complete like black form. You can also do it like this, but you need this darkness so that your eye will look for the light, because that's what it does. Your eyes will look for the light, and your eyes, by these forms, you can also, you can also point this towards the middle, will follow what you're pointing at. Again, creating depth, creating perspective. This grass is overlapping these layers, these leaves. Then maybe the ground here is a bit darker, also here, because maybe the light comes from here, you know. So this is a bit darker. Again, pushes your eye towards the light, towards that one point where your frog is. And then your frog is here, who's completely fine, chilling in the sun, completely in focus, having his eyes, having a little shimmer, enjoying the sun, right? So you can add a little bit of shadow, like I told you, like I explained to you in the last video. You can add a little bit of shadow, and here a little bit of shadow. You can even put some grass behind him, that's all fine, you know. It doesn't have to be solely him into the focus. You can also add a stone here if you want. Maybe there's another stone. But then again, this stone, I'm making it darker than this one, but lighter than that one, right? Again, creating depth, some shadow. Same with these leaves. If this one is in the forefront, I'm gonna make it dark. Dark value. Same with these. I'm doing this very roughly, sorry guys. It's just to explain to you guys how this works. So you actually have sort of three values. You have black, gray, and white. So this frog has the highest amount of contrast because it catches all the light. It is in the light. It's really in the sunbeams, like this. And then here to the back, you sort of make the suggestion of another boulder. You can't really see it, but it's there, right? Again, here, same thing. The suggestion of a boulder, the suggestion of some leaves. Maybe there's some leaves in the back, but also there's some leaves in front of that. So play with the values here. Overlap, again, this leaf is overlapping this branch. Again, depth. Maybe this one is over here. Sort of in the middle ground, but not really somewhere. See what happens? It now already looks like he's somewhere in a very overgrown forest in the middle of I don't know where. And you can, of course, in the background, play with your values a little bit. Make the suggestion by making some strokes and lines that there are more leaves and more foliage. You don't really have to draw them out because, again, everything that's further back is out of focus, so you can only see the shapes. You can't really, see what it is anymore. Can play with the light here. Maybe this is a bit more dark, and this side too. So that Mr. Froggy is the focus point of your whole illustration. So there are a couple of things that I want to sum up for you guys. Perspective. Think about which shape you want to have for your canvas. Think about your portrait, your landscape, or your square. Also think about, and keep into consideration, working from dark towards light. It's a difference when, for example, there's a campfire here and the light goes out, then you work the other way around. But normally everything in front is dark. Everything towards the back becomes lighter and more out of focus. And also make sure to check and try to have your visual lines, your eye lines, the way your eye sort of is dragged towards your focal point by the lines in your drawing. In this case, we've already sort of done that because we've already put it on a focal point, and the biggest mass is over here. So also there's the light source is over here. So your eye is already drawn into this illustration, drawn into this landscape. So you have different ways of creating depth, creating perspective, creating sphere. So think about it: light, values, contrast, shapes, overlaps, focus, and how do you call it? Reflection. For example, if I want this frog to be super if I want this frog to be the focus point, then I probably would give his eye a shimmer, and maybe the top of his nose, and maybe his leg, so that your eye is always going towards the light. Also, your vision also is always drawn towards eyes of the character, so that's also a plus. But in this case, we're talking about perspective, so I'm gonna leave that out. So take this into consideration when you're drawing an environment for your monster. If there are any questions, then let me know and I'll talk to you guys. So you've reached the end of my vlog. Thank you for watching. I have to go to bed, I guess, so I'll leave it to this. If you want to subscribe, then hit the bell button, and you'll be updated of every new movie. If you want to leave a like or a comment, you're more than welcome. And if you want me to look at your artwork, then just tag me on one of your social media accounts and I will take a look at it. And I hope to see you all next week with a new vlog.